Hello, everybody. Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas. Today's story is going to be real interesting. It comes off recent news events, and I'm going to show you. This was on my Facebook feed this morning. I shared this story, and it showed Trump. It says Pence should be investigated for not reversing my election loss. And I put a comment here at the top, and I said yesterday I sent President Trump an email telling him that my theory about Vice President Pence being blackmailed over trying to cover up the oil show party murders in Midland, Texas for some multi-billion-dollar oil companies. And today I see this news story where he's suggesting that Pence gets investigated. I mean, the timing is just amazing here. I think it is because of this. Here, I'm going to read you what the short letter that I sent President Trump yesterday, okay? And I said, President Trump, my name's Buddy Webb and I live in Midland, Texas. I wrote you while you were president, but I'm not sure you got my messages. I just saw a news story concerning Vice President Pence's betrayal on Insurrection Day, and I have a theory as to why that may have happened. My theory is that Pelosi got information from me concerning crimes and murders in Midland, Texas, and then used that to blackmail Vice President Pence. You're going to find this very interesting. A few months before that day, I contacted the office of Congressman Pelosi, and I told them my incredible true story of being ambushed and shot by somebody under my home with burglar alarms going off in the attic. I've contacted so many people that I can't count. I've now documented over 50 other homeowners reporting people in the attic, and multiple people documented saying that secret $1 million underground homes are near my home, with one of those telling me they were put in for the Bushes back in the 80s. Supporting evidence can be found on old Google Maps, as it looks like one of the 4 underground safe houses is located in my backyard at 3802 Faircircle. It's believed these underground homes were hosting parties for the Permian Basin International Oil Show, and my friend told me about a young girl that was murdered at one of those parties in October 2010 because she didn't want to prostitute. The previous owner of my home died the week before the 2008 oil show started, and I believe he was murdered by this same crime ring. I was shot by somebody under my home in 2012. I was told that 4 people had been murdered, died in my home. It makes sense that multi-billion-dollar oil companies involved with those parties don't want the public to find this out, and I've suspected they were bribing elected officials. On April 17th, 2019, Vice President Pence was in Midland meeting with the leaders of oil companies, and I suspected they may have offered him a donation for help in covering up the underground homes and oil show party murders. On August 15, 2019, I posted a story to my Facebook called Artesia Suspects, which was based on a phone call where I was told about a wealthy oil man from Artesia, New Mexico that was involved in the underground homes and parties here. A few hours later, I see that Vice President Pence was flying to the tiny town of Artesia. On July 2nd, 2019, the day that Vice President Pence mysteriously flew back to Washington, which made national news, I met Homeland Security at the Midland Home Depot store, and I showed them where I believed a tunnel was located used for the oil show parties and murders. 2 weeks later, the ground was dug up and concrete was poured there, but I got it on video, which went viral. 2 weeks after this viral video, U.S. Congressman Mike Conaway from Midland announces his retirement. And come to find out, his brother-in-law used to live across the street from my home, his late brother-in-law. 3 months later, U.S. Secretary of DHS Kevin McClellan resigned. And 6 days later, U.S. Secretary of Energy Rick Perry resigned. At the time, I suspected that you knew this was going on and was involved in trying to cover up these multiple murders. And if that is the case, then I don't expect to see a reply from you. But if not, then you were being deceived. I've wondered if me telling Pelosi's staff this fact-filled story gave them an idea of how to blackmail Vice President Pence. My YouTube channel is filled with fact-filled videos to back this up, with my latest video called Police and Press are covering up the murder of a young girl. Sincerely, Buddy Webb. And I get a reply. I've got a screenshot, but it's right here in my email. I'll just show you. It's 22 hours ago is when I got the reply from the office of Donald Trump right there. Thank you for writing President Trump. We are carefully reviewing your message. President Trump believes the strength of our country lies in the spirit of the American people and the willingness to stay informed and get involved. He appreciates you taking the time to share your thoughts and send his best wishes to you and your family. Okay, so that was the reply I got after sending this email to Trump yesterday. And then today, I see this news story where he's calling for Pence to be investigated. Okay, and so here I'm going to go over some of my other comments here. I said, imagine if President Trump saw this video and he wasn't involved in covering up the oil show party murders. This should convince anybody, right? This is my latest video called Police and the Press Covering Up the Murder of a Young Girl. If you haven't seen it, you need to see that video. I mean, it is just amazing. You'll look at it. There is no doubt about it. The police and the press are working together to cover up not only the murder of that little girl, but the murder of the previous homeowner, the capital attempted murder of my life. Actually, I was told there were 4 people murdered, died in my home. I mean, it is just lawlessness, unprecedented lawlessness is what's been going on. Okay, and so anyways, I put that link, and then my next comment here, and basically copy and paste from the top. On April 17, 2019, Vice President Pence was in Midland meeting with the leaders of oil companies. I suspected they may have offered him a donation for helping covering up the underground homes and also party murders. So I went and found a news story to back that up, okay? And here's from the news story from the Midland Reporter Telegram. It said the vice president attended a fundraiser dinner hosted by Vicky and Javiad Anwar, Terry, that's an old man, Terry and Tim Dunn, Paula and Jim Henry, Julie and Bill Kent, Bubba Salisbury, Amelia and Dick Salisbury, Jamie and Kyle Stallings, Joanne and Fairs Wilkes, Stacy and Dan Wilkes. To attend just the dinner, the donation is $2,800. To have a photo taken with the vice president, the donation is $15,000. And attendance at a VIP reception requires a $50,000 donation. According to the flyer from Trump Victory, okay, and so that's here. And then the news story is Vice President to tour Diamondback oil drilling rig, and that's where that information come from right here. I'll show you, and there it is right there, Vice President to tour Diamondback, and there's more to that y'all could read. Here's my next one to back up what I said, what I wrote President Trump. On August 15, 2019, I posted a story to my Facebook called Artesia Suspects, which was based on a phone call where I was told about a wealthy oil man from Artesia, New Mexico, was involved in the underground homes and parties. A few hours later, I see that Vice President Pence was flying to the tiny town of Artesia, New Mexico. The timing was amazing. $1 million underground facilities. That's the secretly recorded phone call. Now I'm going to show you here on the left hand side is my Facebook post August 15th in the morning, okay, 6 o'clock in the morning, Artesia, New Mexico suspects. And then this was based on a video that recording on that secretly recorded phone call where the woman says it was a town near Hobbs that starts with an A, wealthy oil men involved in the underground homes here, okay. So that's what this post was about. And then on my Facebook feed the same exact day, August 15th at 11 o'clock, about 4 hours later, Vice President Pence is flying to the tiny town of Artesia. Ain't that what a coinky dinky? Ain't that? As soon as I posted that, it was like he was watching my Facebook, Okay, and then here, let's go here. On July 2nd, 2019, Vice President Pence was called back to the White House over undisclosed emergency. He was on his way to New Hampshire to discuss the state's opioid crisis when Air Force Two was recalled. This same morning, the same day, Homeland Security Agent Paul asked if they could meet me at my home, but then told me something came up and asked me to wait. This was at the same time that Pence was flying back to Washington, while I was told to wait. Later that day, he told me to meet them at the Home Depot store. And I suspect Pence made it back to Washington. They had a meeting, and then they said, meet us at the Home Depot store. I thought justice was finally coming, but DHS agent Paul Cervantes surprised me and said, I don't know why you don't sell that home if you're living under the threat of death. And that just caught me off guard. It was clear to me that instead of trying to stop this human trafficking crime ring and solve these multiple murders and crimes, that he wanted me to move due to the threat of death. I explained the Hobbs Act to him, which says it's a violation to conspire with others to terrorize a property owner into selling their property. And that's exactly what I felt like was going on. This was the day I showed them where I believe the human trafficking murder tunnel was located that was used for the underground oil show parties, and 2 weeks later the ground was dug up and concrete was poured there. I wondered if Pence was involved in the decision to pour concrete. Okay, and so I put a link to this news story. Pence flies back. Pence's plane called back to D.C. for unspecified emergency. Okay. And I'm going to show you the date on it. Last day, July 3rd and July 2nd. That's what I'm saying. Same exact day, same exact time. And actually, that was what was happening during the day. It's like first they were going to come to my house and then told me to wait. And then a few hours later, then they want to meet me at the Home Depot. And during that time, Pence flew back to Washington. And I suspected it was to have a meeting over meeting me behind, in Midland over these oil show party murders. Okay. On July 2nd, 2019, Pence mysteriously flew back to Washington at the same time. I'm at DHS at the Home Depot store to show where I believe the human trafficking tunnel was located. On July 17th, 15 days later, the ground is dug up and concrete's being poured, but I get it on video. On July 30th, U.S. Congressman Mike Conaway announces a retirement, and come to find out his brother-in-law used to live across the street from my special home. I had contacted Conaway in 2015 about these crimes and murders, and it's suspected it's because I got this on video. Now I'm going to show you. Here it is, July 17th. There's concrete coming out of the truck. I was back here with Homeland Security showing them where the human trafficking murder tunnel was at. This is a Google Earth old map. You can look it up yourself on Google Earth. Here's my home. In the backyards where I believe one of the underground homes is. Here's Home Depot. And look between it. You can see where they cut the ditch right there where the tunnel was located. I believe the people going to the oil show parties were using this tunnel. That's what I showed Homeland. I believe and probably the remains of that dead girl is in there. Maybe DNA evidence was in there, is now filled with concrete though, because after I showed Homeland where human trafficking murder tunnel is, concrete was poured on July 17th. Now keep in mind, July 2nd is when I showed them the same day Pence flew back to Washington. Okay, July 30th. Okay, and so July 17th, July 30th, Conaway announces his retirement. Come to find out, his brother-in-law used to live across the street from this special rigged home. Yeah, maybe there's a tunnel over there. I always wondered about that. And finally, on July 2nd, 2019, Vice President Pence mysteriously flew back to Washington, etc. On October 11th, 3 months later, U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security Kevin McClellan resigns. And 6 days later, U.S. Secretary of Energy Rick Perry resigned. Perry was governor of Texas when the oil show party murders happened. I suspected these two may have been involved in the decision to pour concrete, which should be tampering with evidence in a capital murder, right? I mean, that's what I'm thinking it is. If they're involved, that would be tampering with evidence in a capital murder. And what I really think's happening in these multi-billion-dollar oil companies that were having these underground oil show parties don't want the public to find out because it's not good for their stock price. And so then they're offering these big donations or bribes, if you want to call them bribes, to elected officials to help them cover up this murder because they don't want the public to find out, okay? And so I want to show you here. Kevin McClellan resigns, acting Homeland Secretary. There it is. On 6 days later, October 17th, Energy Secretary Rick Perry resigns. And keep in mind, Perry was governor of Texas when the oil show parties were going on. This is a huge story, everybody. I write President Trump, and guess what? Trump's calling for Pence to be investigated. Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas.